This
that.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay. We were discussing about the hierarchy, and I discussed about it, like I mentioned it, how it is going to create. We discussed about the describe property yesterday. So these are all different properties which we discussed. Hierarchy and folder, I think folder we didn't discuss, so let's close that so that we have almost covered everything. So coming back to the main portion that we were discussing about this dimension section, right? So when you see this, you can have an option that this is my data source, sample EU superstore, and I am viewing the columns and the dimensions there, right? I can view the data by clicking on this. This will open a window which will show, let's say 5,000 or 10,000 record. How many records which you are getting? Okay, 10,000 is the maximum record because it takes a sample data. Okay, and it sees the data, and then you can understand, okay, this is my data set. I can export it and I can analyze it. Like say some people are more comfortable analyzing it over Excel and then do the research. Okay, so that is the purpose you have this. This is the search window which we all know now. Okay, and now here you see, here you have an option that group by folder, group by data source table. So when I do group by data source table, I get the column names as per the table. So let's say I have two tables. Let's say I have this employee table, right? I have one data source, this which we created for AdventureWorks. Okay, and let's say I connect my employee to the department. We discussed that thing yesterday. Okay, we just see how it is coming up. Oh, I think we had that issue, right? Some problem is there. Hmm. So let's say we have two tables, okay, which is basically joined. So what will happen? It will show one table and all the columns, all the dimensions of that particular column, and then another table with all the columns name with that particular table. Okay, I can analyze that thing by making a simple example with a data table. Okay, so I can get my data from an Excel. It's not true only for the table. Let's say if I have two sub source in a single data source, let's say I have two tables which are getting joined in a source, then I will have two different tables. Let's say I have these two different data sets, right? This is an Excel. I have one table coordinate and one table OE data. This is also a very big data set, that is why it's taking some time. So I informed you earlier also that the Tableau desktop is a or Tableau reports are a memory consumption consuming applications. Okay, so if you have a good data RAM, okay, you have a good RAM over your machine, it helps. So if I have a 32 GB RAM, 16 GB RAM, it is smooth. Even the server configuration is very difficult. You have 8 core server configuration with 32 GB RAM, then it will work very well. Okay, otherwise more than that, people are having, I have seen the machines which have 16 core server with 128 GB RAMs, just to make sure that users can get a better experience. Okay, I think I connected to it. So this is what I was talking about, that you have a two different tables. Okay, so what it will come, all the dimensions from coordinates will come together within coordinate, and all the dimension for OE data will come together in OE data. So that is how it will work. Okay, so we'll just give some time to get it done. Okay. I'm canceling it because it will take, I think, if this is taking so much time here, down the time it will take more time when we are going to analyze it. So I have a smaller data set. I'll use that. Okay. So when I cancel this, this will cancel the operation. It will take some time even to cancel the operation also because of simple reasons that just do it for small data set. So now you see there's a OE data which was available earlier. Now we don't have that particular sheet in our new data sets. So it is just, it will give an error, okay? Because earlier it was showing that and now it is not there. So the source is giving an error, okay? Similar for coordination. So then you have to remove it, then put it like this. Now I have joined it, okay? Go to sheet. So see if I was explaining about this. So I
Dinesh,
have a two different, yeah, go ahead.
Dinesh, so if while we join, right, so if your data is not coming means, so there is no join properly in the backend. It is true, right?
Yeah, yeah. You see that here, okay? So see, by default, it will be joining by the column names, which basically I gave it to you, okay? So if I join it by let's say something like this, okay? And I join it, and you see there is no data coming here, right? Because the reason is that
Yeah.
the join is not properly, and now it is coming just
So
because the
here,
is coming.
uh, if it is showing that red symbol, so like if data is not coming, so if we can uh, run the analysis, run the analysis in the sheet one, okay. So data, the like data will trigger or what?
No, there are two things. The red icon was showing because coordination table was not available. So earlier, let's say I change my data source here, okay, and move it to another table, which table has sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. Now I am having the coordination and main as a two data sets, right? Now coordination is not there in my data source, so that is why it was giving error. And okay, coordination table does not exist in your data source now because you changed it to something else. That is why it was giving the error. Now, once that error was there, okay, I fixed it by removing the old references and giving the new references. Now, let's say I don't have any join condition. Okay, I don't have two columns which are getting joined. So it will be blank. It will be blank like this. Okay, and then it will give an here that the join is not there, okay, then I have to give the join condition, then it will work, okay. If even the join condition is working, let's say I joined block with something else question, okay, so this join condition is not right. Why? Because maybe their data types are different, so I do it something like value, okay, so now it's getting joined. So if the after join also only the data set which is relevant will come up, because you see here, you see the block one is there, I have some value with one in the value column, that is why it got joined. So it is just by fluke it joined, it was not supposed to join, but you have the two columns with something common, so that is why it joined. So then it's showing the data. So the crux is that if the data join is fine, you will get the value below. If the data join is not right, you will not get the value
Okay. Okay, thank you.
below. So
Yeah,
now
Dinesh,
going, yeah,
one
yeah.
clarification here. Even field names are different also. If data are same means it will automatically Tableau intelligence will map, right?
Yeah, yeah, Tableau integrates, but it has a it has a positive also, it has a negative. Okay, let's say I have a remark column in both tables, remark in one table, remark in two tables. Now we all know remarks are normally string, right? Now if I have to join remark, it is not the right way of joining the two tables. It should be something ID and all. So you don't never go with what Tableau does. Okay, Tableau helps you. So you have two data sets, let's say you don't know anything about that, and now you want to identify, you just join them in Tableau. So Tableau will automatically tell you, okay, join it between CID or block. Okay, so you know what could be one of the columns which is common, but decision depends on you. So as a data analyst, what is the best way I do? That you have to analyze the data first, understand the grain. Tableau will do his work, okay, but you have to understand that is it right?
Yeah, I got the point. So Tableau intelligence works based on the field names point of view or data values point. Both it will take.
It will take data type and field name. It will take by field. For you, it is like, for us, it is just a field name. Okay. It will. It is not so intelligent that it understand that. It will be maybe because they are working a lot, but yeah. Right now, it is just a field name, Damodar. Okay. Now going back to the main point. So that is what I'm trying to explain here. So okay, you can see this now. You have a block like coordination and main separately. Now why we have folder? Okay. Now let's say I group by folder. What happens? It becomes a single list, right? Now I want to create a folder. Let's say make it something a group. Let's say all the columns with some section. Let's say customer columns. Customer names are combined together. Okay, for me, I don't have that kind of data. Though what I am doing, I moved the Q columns together and R columns together, right? Now this are, let's say these values are measures. I have to convert it into dimensions like X and Y and all. So I go and right click here, dimensions. Okay. Now I can make them a new folder IDs. Okay. And move all them together. I can do shift and multiple select. Okay. Control shift you can do. So I have these three folders prepared, right? So why we do this? Because here also, let's say if I go to this data source, which is a EU data source, you have these folders prepared. Why they have done like this? So that you segregate your important columns separately in a folder, so that tomorrow when you have so many columns in a Tableau report, you can drag and drop directly from where to, you know where to find it. Search option is already there, but you know where to find it. Okay. Similarly, you can do the same stuff for the measures. Okay. So that is the basically purpose of this data source group by folder or group by data source table. Okay. Now this is just a sorting, how you want to see that you want to sort it by the alphabetical name, or you want to sort it in a way that how the data is stored in the table. So let's say in my table I have employee ID at the first column and rest other columns are there. So I will have employee ID at my sequentially defined as the first thing. Hide all unused field. Okay. What unused field is, like, let's say I have used employee. Okay. And I am using only current flag from the employee. Why? How I know that employee table is being used? You have blue icon here. It means that this sheet is using employee. Okay. If I use something else, let's say I added something else, you see, I, okay, this is employee generator. Let's say I add something else. Okay. So let's say I added these things. So what the warning I got from another, so that you are not relating employee and EU master together. There is no relationship between employee master data source and EU master. So how you can analyze that? Okay, but it put that value, and now you can see this becomes a little bit orange. Okay, so what is this? This employee is basically the primary data source, and this sample is a secondary data source. Now if I want to add another thing, let's say I want from another set, it will also add, but it will consider that also as a secondary data set. Okay, so now we will understand the basic concept of data blending, okay, which is one of the major concept which people don't know. Because see, when I ask questions, interview questions to the people, they all answer in a way which is totally wrong, which basically Tableau does. Okay, even I have very clear guidance, like if you want to really achieve and do well in Tableau, learn Tableau from a from a sources which you know that okay, this is the right sources, because there is lot of misunderstanding, and your fundamentals in initially if gets wrong, it be like that for let's say another 5 years. Okay, then how you can do it, like how, this session will over, but then how you can do that? So I would suggest use Tableau community. Tableau community is the best source which I found myself for my my learning. This has all the information in the right appropriate way. There are many experts who write the stuff in such a beautiful way that you understand in a single time. And Tableau community is very strong. It has almost everything, whatever you think, like all the scenarios are there. Okay. Now what we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss the primary and secondary data source. Okay. Now, before doing this, I have to explain you what is primary and what is secondary. And now we are going to do a SQL journey with primary and secondary. It's not even a Tableau. Okay. So now everyone will have to understand and follow me and stop me if they are not able to understand in between. Okay. We are understanding the concept of data blending. Okay. Now, what is data blending? First, we know what is data join. Okay. So we know what is data join, that in a data source, okay, in a data source, if we have to join two tables like we did for right now coordinate and main data, right? We did it in the table, so that is why we join on a common key, right? What is the benefit of the joining of that? You will get a one single data source, right? One single data source will be the output of this. But what is the basically problem with this data join? That let's say I have two tables. One table is very huge. Another table is very huge. Let's say I have a sales data and I have a target data, right? Now if I join them together, let's say my sales data, I have employee ID, date and sales, right? And let's say I have these employee ID, their data and sales. Okay. This is my one data set. Now another data set is employee ID, no, employee department and their target, right? So I have target of an employee, right? Department. And let's say we have employee ID, employee sales, and employee department too. So you understand now that these two data at a different grains, they can join at employee department. But if I join them together, my data will basically going to get further join, right? It will add an overhead, that it will join this table and then it will join this table with this table and then it will join and relate it together, right? And then we are going to use it in our reporting. So why is it required to do it every time, or does it only for some time we are going to do it? You understand what I'm trying to say is that does we are going to do this analysis every time, that we have to join it first and then do the analysis if I have to join two tables? No. Understand this, that no, joining is not an option everywhere. So what Tableau does, Tableau basically gives you an option that you keep your data source separately, and once you feel that okay, you have to join it for particular analysis, only for this sheet I have to join, you can join for that specifically that sheet. So when I do a join, let's say I do it for employee table, right? I had the coordination this table. So now this is the data source will be used for all the reports. Now in some case I will require only main columns. In some case I will require coordinate columns only, right? But I am using the report which is basically joining both of the tables. So what it means that I am unnecessarily joining the tables for everything which I want to create, but my requirement is that only for 5 6 things only I will require them together. For other things I will have it separately. So then the concept of data blending comes up, that okay, you keep your data sources separately, that I create my for example, let's say we use the same stuff, okay, and we what we do, we connect to a data source and we will have a coordinate here, okay. Now this is one data source. So I have my coordination. I'll close this employee one, because that's now this is my coordination, okay. Together I make it together, give the name where I together join, okay. This is coordinate. I will add one more. Now let's say here you have all the columns, right? You have all the columns which basically we discussed, main and all. Now if I go to coordinate, I will have these all columns, right, which basically are coordinate columns. And if I go to main, I will have these columns, right? Now let's say I want to join them together and analyze it, okay. So what is the way to do that? That is a way of data blending, that you go to the data, edit relationship, okay. Now I want to join coordinate and main, right? So I just select both. I know they automatically identify that block is the column, but if I want to add any new key, that no, block is not, this is something else, I can add it. Let's say point, order and question, okay. So I join based on my keys, okay. So automatic is one of the option, you can join based on your key. Now as we know that block is the right option which Tableau suggested, and we made it a join with coordination with the main, okay. So now if you see here, I have these two things related, okay, but nothing is happening, they are not showing it together. Now let's say I put coordinate block here. So when I do block here, it shows that block is my from coordination because it shows it's a blue. Now if I go to the main, you identify that main is already having a link icon for the block. Why it is showing? Now tap to understand that you use primary data source as coordination. Now you are going to the different data sources because I moved to main. Now if the relation says that coordination is related to the main based on block, okay, so it will show me that option. Similarly, if you see here, if I go to together, okay, if you see here, it is mentioned here automatically that block and coordination and together join is basically related through block, point table and all. So all these columns names are coming here, okay, with the link. So whatsoever you define at the top, then only the link will appear. First thing. The second thing is that once the link is not joined, you see I stop the link now. There is no relationship, okay. You have to first you see I am getting the block from secondary data source, which is my main, and the secondary data source components are shown with a orange tick, okay. Now if I put a value here, I am getting the value properly. Now I am showing you, if I unclick this, you see I am getting the value 402. What is the value of 402? Now that is where I will explain you how the blending works, okay. So you see the total value is 402, right? So basically main data source is having a 402 value. Now if I unclick this, it is 402 for all the columns. What it means? It means that secondary data source is first getting aggregated and then it is getting joined. So what happens here? Let's discuss this parallelly. Okay. So let's now discuss coordination only. Okay. So let's say I have coordination. I put block, and let's discuss how this sheet query is working. So what this would be happening, like if I'm creating this thing in a Tableau, what happens that whatever we create in the Tableau, I explained you earlier also, there is a SQL query generated and that is gone to the SQL database or what could be the data source, and report is getting generated by retrieving the data from the particular data source, and that data is then showed in this particular fashion, right? So now I am using only coordination, right? I am only using coordination and I have a block. So what happens, the first query will be written select, right, block from coordination, right? Only thing is that as Tableau group by block. Can you understand this? There could be multiple records in the particular block, right? You can see this. For one, I am having so many records, right? Now, when you drag and drop here, you see only one block, right? Why? Because you have only, sorry, I don't have to aggregate this. So you are getting only this particular column, right? Because it is basically grouping by block. So it is just grouped by block. This is my primary data source column. So whatever you put, this could be the directly query which will be generated, right? Because it's just a block and all. If let's say I put here, for example, X. So what it is showing? Select block, right? Comma X, right? But it is also grouping by X because then only we are saying only one records. If I do number of records here, it I'm getting 2. So what it is now, the query will be generated is select block X, comma count star, right? And as it is already aggregated, I don't have to do it. This will be the output of my query. I hope everyone understand this. I'm talking about only primary data source. Now I went to the secondary data source. Okay. And what I did, I said, okay, put the value from secondary data source. Okay. Now what happened? It is showing block X number and 402 for everything. You see this? 402 for everything. So what it means? It is showing what Tableau does, that for secondary one, it defines that, okay, these are different columns which are there in the secondary main table, okay, which is secondary, and block is basically you are joining, or let's say I join with the block right now. So now what happens that, okay, what it identifies that, okay, it would be select block from main group by block. This is how it will be joining the two relationship. Okay, so main, which is a secondary data source, the query will be written for this particular main section is basically block, select block from main group by block. So if there are two columns which are getting joined, it would be select block comma CID from main group by block comma CID. So basically what would be the relationship? It would basically join grouping then of the basis of that. But for all the other columns, irrespective it is CID, question, remark, response. This here is the difference. It will do aggregate function. Okay, so column, let's say X aggregate CID. Now value is a measure. So value is a measure. So by default it does sum. Like that for all the columns. It will be basically aggregating it. Okay. Now that is why you are getting this particular. Now you have these two tables. Okay. Now what is happening? When you do a blend, this query output is basically getting joined with this query on the basis of, so this is my query 1, right? Query 1, which is primary, inner join, sorry, left join. So blending will have a left join, taking consideration will have all the records from the primary and the common records from the secondary. Okay, left join based on the secondary on p dot block equal to s dot block. This is how the blending works. Okay, this is how the blending works. You will never find this kind of analysis over the web, because very few blogs have been written on the blending concepts. Okay, how it is working. But if you work by analyzing the query and all, you will identify this is how it works. Okay, now I'll show you few examples. Okay, how it is basically actually working. So let's say,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Dinesh. Dinesh, generally the blending means like we can develop the analysis with two different sources, is it?
No, that is where the difference is there. See, generally it was almost 5 years, 10 years back. Now let me just show it to you. If you have this edit data source, okay. Now I have one data source, right? Excel, and I got these two tables, right? Now I can go to connection, and then I have a further option. That's a text file, okay, and I can connect my text file, and I can further analyze with my current existing joins, right? So I have one more table from different data source which are heterogeneous. One is Excel, one is text, right? And I am joining the data tables from the another table together in a join itself. So this is one of the application, but that is not data blending, right? So it is as simple. So how you will differentiate between join and blending? Okay. So how the differentiation resides that in the joining, you will join it from the multiple data sources or single data sources, different sheets or different tables. Okay, and then you do analysis. Why? Because you want to bring in them all together before doing the analysis. You want to bring them in a single data source before doing the analysis. But in blending, it is a scenario where you have a two different data sources. Okay, it is not like, and they could be heterogeneous, they can be homogeneous. It means that they could both be a SQL server, one could be Excel and all, and it is not dependent on one or two, it could be many. So when I want to bring multiple data sources together, okay, and bring the analysis together, but keeping them separately as a data source, will create a data blending. So the difference lies is that you want to use them together in a single data source, or you want to keep them three different but use them together. Okay, so that is basically the fundamental difference of data blending and data join. Now, how the blending works and how join works, that is what I try to show it to you here. That in blending, when you make something primary, it will be normal. Okay. So for this, let's say when you make any source, it will be all together separately. Like you have the data, select this column and group by this. Why? Because you just dragged and drop block and X, right? But when you do secondary, it will, irrespective how many columns are there, it will group by only at the level of the joining key. So I joined over the level of block, then it is grouping at by block, and now it relate based on this, and for all the other columns it will be XXX, basically aggregated. And now I tell you, you can see that also, that in the main table, let's say now if I put CID, okay, you see star. Why I am getting star? Because now for each block I am getting multiple CIDs. Okay, for each block, let me click one of them, okay, and just see view data. So you see, I can see full data. So for each particular record, block, part number, quotation, right, I am getting a multiple record, right, X and Y separately, okay, and for that I am getting different CIDs. That is the reason it is giving me a star value. Okay, so that because aggregation of a particular name, let's say I have name column and I have multiple values, okay, and I do a aggregation. Aggregation means like you group them together for alphanumeric values. So if I have a different value in that particular column, it will give me a star. It means that you have multiple values for a particular column. Similarly, if I have only one value, let's say year in my column, and my output is also getting year as one, if I do aggregate, it will return me 2019, which is basically one value is there, so that is why it is able to give you aggregate property. So you have to understand the joining key is the basically main difference, and the group which happening at a secondary level. So whatever you define as a joining key, it will group at that level and it will aggregate everything based on that. Now if you are planning to use anything from the secondary data source, you will know that CID I can't use, okay, because if I use CID it will give me a star. Okay, similarly I come up with another example, okay, which is a more realistic, like if I have an employee ID, right, employee name as one column, okay, let's say 1 2 3, okay, A B B B. Oh. Now another table is employee ID. Let's say I am giving the value of monthly salary, okay, and their salary. Now you can see this, I am getting this data, okay, I'm just preparing this data for, so I am having a two salary data for the 3 months. Now if I want to join them together, if I am planning to join them together, there is one way to analyze that, okay, and I want to have a report, employee name, salary month, salary. So which one I will keep primary, which one I will keep secondary? This is one of the example that if I want to analyze this thing, okay, which one I will keep primary, which one I will keep secondary. This is employee master, this is, let's say, employee master A, and this is employee salary table B. Now this is the report, I want it in the Tableau, okay. So which one I will keep primary, which one I will keep secondary? Very simple example, right? Uh, what do you think? Like what all of us think? Which one will keep primary, which one will keep secondary? Let's try for one exercise.
So A table is a primary and B table is a secondary.
Okay.
Dinesh.
Anyone?
Like B table, like in the A table, we have only the employee IDs 1, 2, 3, and in the B table, like we have multiple employee IDs.
No problem. You just give me an answer. Okay. Ram says, Ram, can you explain A or B primary? What you mean by this? A secondary, B primary. A should be primary. Actually, I think you mentioned B primary first, but now, okay, Henzelian. Okay, no problem. So I have one answer. Both answers are wrong. Okay, I tell you why. Now understand this. You have to make B as a secondary and B as a primary and A as a secondary. Why? If I say that okay, I want all the records from A and all the records from the B which are common to the A only, then definitely I have to make A primary and B secondary because I want 1, 2, 3. But you have to understand now my output report is employee name, employee salary, month, and salary. So what will happen in this case? Let's say we copy this, okay, this whole section and put it in my this phase, okay. So now you see this thing, okay, how I am going to do this. So if I take the same example that this is my employee master, what, and I make this as a primary, I am going with your answer, okay, right now. So if I make this as a primary, what will happen? So what will you will write a query, let's say primary query, select, right? The same thing, I'll just copy this, I'll just make myself easy. Select, here I will write employee ID, right? Employee name, right? I'm taking it from the primary data source. The employee name is there. Okay, I don't have anything else, so I will just remove everything from A block employee name, right? This will be the one query for primary. Now what is my going to be my secondary query for secondary? Let's do this. That okay, I will do a left join, and as my employee ID column is the relationship, right, for both of them. So I will do what I will do. Sorry, I'll just add this also here. I will do here employee ID based on group by, and this is how it is going to relate, right? Employee ID and employee ID. Any confusion here till this time? Just remove this thing, okay? Just forget about this thing. So this is going to be the basic stuff that I will have primary here and all the columns here group by, and I will have secondary here. So I will have this column as my primary key, which is grouping key, and I will relate on this basis, right? Now there are two things I am analyzing at a level of salary, month, and salary. Okay, so what will happen? It will sum for salary, okay, and what will happen? Salary month is a date field, right? It will aggregate it for the date field. Now just imagine the output of this particular report, this particular output. When I run this query over this table, what will happen? Select employee ID, right? Comma sum of salary, comma sum of aggregation of salary month. So what are the output of this record? That it will show one aggregate 113, 114, 170, which basically something, let's say 300, whatever the values is coming, let's say 400, right? The value coming. Now the another thing is that aggregate of these three things. So what is the aggregation of January, February, March? These three all are date field or alpha or a string field, whatever you can take it. So this will give you as a star. Now second is second. Let's say this sum is something coming up, let's say 430. This will also come as star. Now you are going to join this output with this particular this table. Now it will show you 1, 2, 3, or what you say DDCC name, because you are showing the names, right? It will show you the salary value. Okay, no value for third one, but for these two things it will show you the star. What we were expecting? We were expecting employee name, salary month, and salary, right? So what you are expecting for each employee name, you are getting the salary month and their salaries. But it is not going to show like that way. right? So now that is the difference is basically we identified, right, when we do secondary and all. So if I do separate as a reverse, if I make this as a primary and this is a secondary, okay, what will happen? Case A, this was the case A, okay. Now if I make them as a primary and this is a secondary, what will happen? So let's do something like this. You have this column, right? Select employee ID, salary and all. I'll just save my day and just do like this. So now this will not have aggregation, right? This will not have aggregation. So I have this salary, salary month and salary, and these two things will be grouped by like this, right? These will be grouped by this, and this is basically a sum of salary month. No, sorry, this is also this will be salary month and this would be sum of salary because it's a major, right? So all this is how it is going to use when we are making it as a primary. Now if I have a secondary here, what I will do, it will be employee ID. Okay, only thing is that employee name will be the aggregation. Just give me 1 second please. Yeah, hello, sorry. So I have employee name, employee ID, okay, and uh, now employee name will be aggregated, right? Because we understood that only the joining key will be basically the normal one, which is basically grouped by, and rest everything will be aggregated. And now this is a secondary and this is my primary. Now I am joining these two output. So you can see that what is the output of this particular result set is basically I have an employee ID, name, sorry, salary and salary month. This will be coming as like this. And now this is basically the secondary one where DDCCMN is there, and this will be basically getting joined properly, right? This will be as same as this, and it will be showing the DDCCMM, right? So it will be showing DD. Sorry, now you have this particular output here. So this is what we were expecting. This is what we are getting when we are doing it vice versa. So you have to understand how the grouping happens, okay? So for secondary one, only you have to remember that for the secondary one, you have to group it based on the name or based on the joining key, and if you have any string values, then it will be basically giving you a star. Multiple values, it will giving you a star. Okay. So okay. So now I will explain something in the Tableau. So that is what we showed it here. Okay. Any doubts here? Okay. So now let's discuss something which is basically related to another things. Okay. So what is a hierarchy? Now hierarchy is something which basically if I have to block one below another and I want to make a sequence, something like that. So let's say I have each question, CID question and all. So I can select these two, create an hierarchy here. So what it will be doing, it will be basically show all the CIDs. When I click on CIDs, it will show me my remarks and question and all. So this is how it is basically. Let's say you want to drill down, you can create a hierarchy, something like this. Okay. Now I have this value and all this stuff. So this is basically the primary data source, which basically we were planning to discuss, and how we are going to determine which one is the primary and which one is secondary. That was the main thing was we are trying to discuss here. Now tomorrow, let's say I have one my report, okay, which is, let's say, block, okay, and now I want to replace my block with point order in my all reports. Yeah, no problem. So what I was explaining, Ram, that hierarchy is something different. Hierarchy is you have to create, let's say, in a region, how many cities are there, how many countries are there. You want to create a sequence or a drill down behavior where you have three particular columns. So I create a hierarchy here, okay, and I put it here, and then you can click like this, so you can see one below another. Okay, so if I want to give the user experience that, okay, you see block first, but if you want to get down, you can click over this. Then you create an hierarchy that if you want to user to give the experience or drill down, then you use this. Okay, that is what I explained, and I showed to you how you create it. You can remove the hierarchy so that it will go, and you can delete your own hierarchy. Okay, I was talking about the replace reference. So if I want to replace my report block with point order, okay, so I just need to click on the column which I want to replace. I want to replace block, and I replace it with the point order, which is a new column. I just drag and drop and put it point order. Now all the report, everything, wherever it is being used, block will be replaced by the point order. So that is as good as like doing nothing. Okay, the changing of the report referencing is such a easy thing in the Tableau, which make it out of the world. Okay, so this is something which basically Tableau does. Okay, and this is the references which we have discussed. Now we are going to discuss the details of uh, different measure matrices. And if you see right click here and you see identify, that almost all the options are same. Almost all the options are same. We will talk about a discrete and continuous, which is something separate, which basically I will want to take more time, not today. Okay, so tomorrow we will discuss discrete and continuous, and then we will work on the parameters and create some reports. Okay, we'll discuss about the marks and all the stuff. So tomorrow would be an important session. Will be covering the fundamental concepts about the measures and all, and we will be creating few more reports. Okay, and I think that is all for today. Okay, tomorrow we would be covering filters, rows and columns, marks, because I think tomorrow we will be able to cover the more theoretical portions of the Tableau, okay, in a different way. And then next week we will have a different use cases where we will create the project oriented use cases, which basically can be used in your profiles, can be used in your organizations too. Okay, so I think that is all for today. We will come back again, and tomorrow we will discuss about the measures and other things. Okay, so if anyone has question, feel free to ask me. Otherwise we'll connect tomorrow. Okay, please share PPT for Tableau. I have already shared it with Deepti. Actually, she has some problem with her laptop. That is why she she was unable to use it to yesterday, but she has mentioned me that she will be sending it today. Okay, so PPT is already shared, it is on the way. Okay, I'll hope you will get it very soon. Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, bye bye, have a nice day.